Okay, this is a different kind of video. This is not a reaction video. This is basically, can I win a presidential election? Now, Vlogging Through History has been doing this, replaying some of the presidential elections in the past. He's done Lincoln versus, can he defeat Abraham Lincoln? Can he defeat John F. Kennedy and so forth? Well, this from AmericanHistoryUSA.com. There's a game called Campaign Trail. Uh, can you defeat certain or take on certain presidential elections and win? There's quite a few of them that you have the option with, and the one that you can do the 2020, 2016, 2012, and so forth. There's a few of them here, and the one I've chosen is the 1988 presidential election, George Bush, first George Bush versus Michael Dukakis. And George Bush won this, and I'm actually going to take on, even though I do freely admit that I am a conservative, I am going to take on the role of Michael Dukakis and see if I can beat George Bush. And as it says here, Michael Dukakis has been elected 3 times as governor of Massachusetts. His chances this year seem to be good if he can press the case for his own ability and challenge the readiness of Bush. Dukakis has won the nomination without aligning himself firmly with a specific wing of the party. His national reputation is positive, but indicate he will be expected to define himself more clearly and need to explain more older values, older votes, and decisions they will become. Well, let's see if I can defeat George Bush. Okay, now I need to choose my running mate. Now he chose Lloyd Bentsen. Okay, another guy who we could chosen is John Glenn, a senator from Ohio, who shares my birthday. Has an airport. The airport, Port Columbus, is now called John Glenn International Airport. Al Gore is another possibility. Al Gore, I thought, was a horrible vice president and even worse presidential campaign. I'm glad he didn't win. That being said, senator from Tennessee, and then Jesse Jackson. Now, Jesse Jackson would be the first African American I believe, on a ticket, to the best of my knowledge. I'm not a historical buff, but I would imagine he would probably be rather interesting if I were to pick him, and he would certainly bring in the black and liberal votes. But he chose Lloyd Bentsen. I'm going to choose John Glenn. Okay, I'm going to choose John Glenn because John Glenn's from Ohio, and because he shares my birthday. I'm going to go a little bit different. Now, I know. Let's see what happens. Okay, now, let's see. Let's see, default winner take all. No, we'll do it the default winner take all. Okay. Now, what it does, this is not anything extravagant. It's not like a bunch of things that I have to do. It's going to ask me 25 questions. As these 25 questions go, I'm going to respond and see how they do. And then I'm going to, every now and then I choose a state I'm going to visit. Now, what message will you emphasize as you accept the Democratic Party nomination? I am a capable, pragmatic leader who will bring Massachusetts' miracle to bear on national scale. We will move past Reagan's scandals and into the future. Now, again, Reagan was a popular president. I will take the attack to George Bush, who has all the weaknesses of Ronald Reagan and none of the strengths. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Fair enough. As governor of Massachusetts, I've led a capable, liberal administration of the state. I will take this to the national level and undo 8 years of failure under Ronald Reagan. Okay, well, take that as you will. Or I will call on all Americans who have been cast aside by our winner-take-all economy, our lopsided tax cuts, to unite and send the Republicans a clear message this fall. Okay, if you look at the Democrats in this time, and I was a senior in high school during this election, a lot of people were very, very pro-Dukakis in my class, but there were a lot of people who were also pro-Bush. Well, I'm going to check the second one. I'm going to take the attack to George Bush. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, and George Bush is nowhere near as popular as Reagan. You have these advisors. You can get rid of this or you can keep it. It's nowhere near as popular as Reagan, and it is not a bad idea to mix in some attacks on him. Okay, now, what did you have to say about John Glenn? Say if John Glenn is your running mate. Well, John Glenn has served his home state in Ohio for many years. We are proud to have him on our national ticket. Like I said, I'm taking John Glenn, and we go on. And as we look at the election, I am in the lead right now. Okay, the estimated support is 53% now. I'm big in certain parts of the country, and not now. Here I need to choose a state to go to. Okay, I think I'm going to get Ohio, but if Texas is in play, I'm going to go to Texas first. Okay, if Texas is in play, I'm going to go to Texas because they get a lot more electoral votes for Texas. Okay, to what extent will you make your performance as governor of Massachusetts the centerpiece of your campaign? Well, we will strike balance between emphasizing our own experience along with making some attacks on George Bush. It's probably a little better to take the attack to George Bush. We will obviously give Massachusetts some mention, but it's not the main focus. And unlike George Bush, I have led the executive branch of the government. I will make Massachusetts. Okay. In my opinion, what I would do here, and again, I'm not going to sit here and compare and contrast from a historical perspective. I'm just going to do what I would do if I was a Democrat and running this. And it's probably a little better to take the attack to George. That's what I would do. Okay. And let's see what that does for me. Okay. George, and I get the same thing. So, and then what is your opinion now of Dan Quayle as George Bush's running mate? Now, Dan Quayle during this time is considered an idiot. He's considered, I think he was a senator from Indiana. To me, Dan Quayle is not an idiot, not a moron. He was a very intelligent man, but he had an unfortunate debate against Lloyd Bentsen. Having said that, what I need to do, I'm going to have the press on my side here. So we don't plan to focus. I would, if it were me, and the perception is that Dan Quayle is a fool, I'm going to do the second one. The first one was we don't plan to focus on Dan Quayle much on the campaign. The second one is Dan Quayle is obviously unqualified to serve as president should the need arise, and his selection is certainly the red flag for the capabilities of George Bush. That's where I would have done. Okay, attacking Dan Quayle is a no-brainer. You can't let this terrible choice of running mate go unpunished. Okay, and so far, okay, that is what it is. Okay, and I'm going to choose a state to go to, and I've got I'm pretty sure I got California. I'm going to go to Ohio now, and then it says, "What will you continue the tradition of debating your opponent in the month before the election?" And my thought is yes. I do want to debate George Bush. Bush stumbled on a couple of occasions, and he did pretty well. Observers believe these debates will definitely help your case. Okay, as we move on, question number 6. There's 25 questions here. To what extent will your campaign focus on the background as a child of Greek immigrants and your rise through American society? Well, to me, my background as a child of Greek immigrants or background to Caucasus, is that really important? Is that what people are going to care about? I would probably use that against George Bush because he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. I would say the choices are my biography is an asset to our campaign, and I will not hesitate to emphasize it. We would do better to focus on political views and attacks rather than re-emphasize my own heritage. Or I want to run a series of compare and contrast advertisements, compare my home. Look, I would take number 2 here. I don't know that I necessarily would need to run through my life as a Greek immigrant. So your own biography always plays well, but maybe not. But so far, it's a close race. Okay, it's a dead heat in Texas. And I'm going to focus on Texas. So I'm going to go, if I said Texas is in play and I'm a Democrat, I'm going to try and do what I do to get Texas. Okay, how do you plan to attack the candidacy of George Bush, if at all? I grew up in a middle class and intricately understand the concerns. Bush grew up in the millionaire son of a senator and remained out of touch ever since. We prefer to run a positive campaign. We believe in liberalism and the benefits of all Americans. Bush subscribes to Reagan's divisive winner-take-all economic policies. We oversaw the Massachusetts miracle. Bush has remained out of the loop on key Reagan scandals. Well, obviously you want to run a positive campaign and focusing on the policies and beliefs and show what you benefit, how you benefit benefit the people of the United States. But, and I don't think liberalism at that time, focusing on liberalism is a good thing. So I'm going to try. I'm going to go it's tough. This number one, how I grew up in a middle class, and Bush grew up in a millionaire. I'm going to go there. Voters respond to your background and upbringing, especially in comparison to that. Okay, so that seems like a smart move. I don't know what it's going to do for me, but let's do that. The Bush campaign is attacking your opposition to the invasion of Grenada and the bombing of Libya. What is your response? Now, Scott, Scott, I supported those, but as Michael Dukakis, let's see, the options are: we need to change the imagery on this issue. Let's do a photo op of me riding a tank. No, I'm not going to do that. If that's an option to ride in a tank, if you ever go to YouTube and write Michael Dukakis in a tank, you'll probably find it there, and it looks incredibly embarrassing. It's one of the reasons I think Dukakis lost the election. So I certainly wouldn't do that. I supported both of these actions in general. I criticized the specific aspects of the implementation. I'm interested to know why Bush would distort to the truth on this. We need to counterattack Reagan and Bush for the point. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take the second one. I'm going to support both. Okay. And your position is not that popular. The voters learn about it, but at least you are keeping yourself in the fray. Yeah, look, that, again, maybe not a smart political move. People might say don't do that, but to me, I think that's the way to go. Okay. And you got the problem. I don't think I have to go to the South because of the Southern Democrats, but I'm going to go to, again, I'm going to go back to Texas. Okay, as long as Texas is in play, I want to see if I can get Texas. Are you willing to rule out any further increases to the federal income tax if elected? Now, this is what did in George Bush, is he got in bed with the Democrats and raised taxes, and then they basically did what any backstabbing politician would do, Republican or Democrat, is they hit him on it, and that's probably why he lost to Bill Clinton. Now, the options are: I hope that this isn't necessary, but it would be irresponsible for me to rule out anything at the present time. My opponent will raise taxes, so will I. He won't tell you. I just did. Read my lips. This is what George Bush said. Read my lips. No new taxes. And he raised taxes. And as president, I will do anything I can to cut income taxes further. Now, if I, as a Democrat, as any good Democrat, any good tax and spend Democrat is, my opponent will raise taxes. So I'm gonna do that. That's what I'm gonna say. The answer after the 1984 debate really has observers scratching their head. I don't care. I said I'm not listening to you. I'm doing what I think is right, what Dukakis should have done, and it could bite me. It could bite me, but this is what I'm doing. Okay, now the Bush campaign is highlighting the pollution in Boston Harbor to counter your claims of a Massachusetts miracle. How would you respond? Options: we will point out the Reagan EPA is chiefly at fault for the lack of funds and action in that case, and we will attack Bush's dishonesty. Number two, I think it would be make a good TV ad if we went to Texas and spoke with some of the people who've been put out of work by the oil crash there. Let's ask them how they feel about the Reagan economy. And it's important to remain above the fray and continue. Well, I'm going to take the number two. I'm going to say, if they're going to do that, I'm going to do this. This is a gutsy move. The people get the message. In any case, at least they're looking at your face instead of the toxic waste dump. Okay. Now, I'm getting the crap kicked out of me for that move, and Texas is now no longer really in play. So that turned out to be a very bad decision by me. Now, my conservative thought is saying, "Hey, good on you," but I'm trying to run it as Michael Dukakis, so I'm going to have to change my tack a little bit. Texas seem to be losing Texas, but I'm going to go back there anyway. I want to see if I can flip Texas back to me. Okay, we still have a way to go. The Bush campaign is attacking the Massachusetts prison furlough program. There was a campaign ad which had these prisoners walking into a revolving door and walking right back out, which included furloughs. Now, the Bush campaign didn't do it. It was another conservative group that did that. But that's what the furlough program, which included furloughs for convicted murderers. One such person, Willie Horton, killed again in Maryland. What is my response? And now the option is: the focus of this campaign needs to be on our competence and the scandals of the extreme policy of the Reagan administration. I trust that voters will see through this attempt to deflect attention from the real issues. I have ordered a halt to this program, albeit too late in this case. We will immediately counterattack these charges. And that's what I'm probably going to take. Now, Mesh is one of the lowest crime rates in the nation. But look, we screwed up, and we're going to say, well, I ordered a halt to this program. That's what I'm going to say. Okay, this is a damaging attack, but at least you are fighting back against its worst effects. Okay, do you support additional? Now, this is a big thing in the United States: gun control measures at the federal level. Now, it doesn't do a whole lot. We've seen on the local level when they have harsh federal gun statutes, it doesn't do anything. It just doesn't. Okay, but again, keep in mind, I'm not a conservative here. I'm a liberal. So, I would only support limited steps in this issue, like a ban on cop killer bullets. Overall, I'm an opponent of increased gun control. I believe that we need to consider the measure to reduce our nation's crime epidemic, including new gun control legislation, or this is getting completely backwards. American families have the right to defend themselves. That's okay. I think that if I'm Michael Dukakis, I'm going to take number 2. Okay, this is in line with your expected position, yes. Although it would be hurting you in some regions, yes. And now, let's see here. I'm going to go to no. I'm going to go to Pennsylvania now. Okay. Do you believe that there should be federal funding for abortions? Now, I support the options. I support any federal effort to increase the health and well-being of women in America. Number 2, there's definitely taking things too far. Roe versus Wade is settled law, but federal funding for the practice is an entirely different matter. Number 3, I have an open mind on the issue, but it would depend on who needs the money and what case thing. Now, look, the Democratic portion. I'm not going to get into Roe versus Wade, whether you like it or not. But if I'm Michael Dukakis, what I would say and what people would back me on is number 1. I support any federal effort to increase the health and well-being of women in America. So that's what I'm going to say. The Democratic base is happily to put you on the liberal end of the debate, but that's what I want to be, on the liberal end of the debate. Okay, and the Bush campaign has reportedly to call you a liberal, okay, or a liberal governor, and so on. Do you embrace the idea of a liberal? Well, there's a lot of ways to answer this question, in my opinion. But the options are: the Bush campaign continues to use dishonest language to scare the American people. I'm a pragmatist, a moderate Democrat. Bush is the real extremist in this case. Now, that's his way of saying, calling me a liberal is a bad word. Okay. Now, I could claim to be a liberal and say, yes, I'm a liberal and I'm damn proud of a liberal. But at this point in time, if I remember, being called a liberal wasn't necessarily a good thing. So I need to choose my words carefully. Now, the second one is probably the one I would choose. Now, the third one is, it doesn't matter what the label is that we use. The important thing is the issues we decide upon. And that's deflecting it. The first one is that, no, I'm not a liberal. How dare you call me a liberal? The third one is embracing it. The second one, sorry. The second one is embracing it. And I'm reading that is, I'm a liberal in the tradition of Franklin Roosevelt, Harry Truman, and John Kennedy. Now, that's what the Democratic base wants to hear. Because as far as they're concerned, those were 3 of the best presidents in the United States. And so be it. So that's what I'm going to take. Okay. The language could be a turnoff to some moderates, but your strength in holding this position appears to others. I mean, look. Now, I'm probably going to lose this election because this was just as Michael Dukakis did. But I'm going to stick to liberal democratic principles and see if I can turn this. Now, I've lost Texas, so I can't get Texas. So let's see. See if I can flip a state here. I'm going to go to Florida. Let's see if I can flip Florida. I don't think I will, but I'll try it. As a protectionist measures of some kind needed to counteract the dominance of Japan in foreign trade, Japanese foreign trade. We've taken too many steps to expand world trade without adequate protecting American workers from the consequences. I would definitely run a more protectionist administration. Our first resort should be to negotiate with Japan and take steps to enhance the competitiveness of American industry. I think we can take limited steps to bring trade back into balance, but in general, we need to celebrate the expansion of world trade with our allies. Let's try number 1 here. Okay, and how would you address the Iran-Contra scandal? Well, the Iran-Contra scandal, okay, I'm not going to get into that because that, to me, doesn't really deal too much. That was in Reagan's term, not during this coming election. I know it's important, but let's see. We prefer to focus on the issues of policy and economics in this election, not on political scandals. Where are the scandals from my administration, man? There we go. I'm a clearly more competent alternative in this election. Or we will hammer them on this theme, particularly Mr. Bush's claiming that he knew nothing about it, because that was a big thing that Bush, I knew nothing about it. What kind of executives knew nothing about it? All right, Cantor. Look, we need to take a gamble here. I was thinking I was going to take where the scandals. Am I bring it to me? No, I'm going to hammer him on this one. Say, yeah, we will hammer. We should hammer him on this. Okay, that is a good opening to remind voters of Bush's unpopularity and possible lack of judgment. So I've done that, and okay, Texas looks like it's. I'm going back to Texas. Okay, even though it's still leaning red, I'm going to go back there. Okay, I want to turn Texas. What is your position on capital punishment? Now, my personal position on capital punishment is I'm in favor of it. That's what Scott's position. But if I'm Michael Dukakis, I would probably not be in favor of it. I believe the options are: I believe that capital punishment is ineffective at reducing crime, and it is not applied in an equal manner. I do not support the practice. That's okay. I believe if the state wishes to impose capital, it should be a state issue. That's again what I think as well. But we need to do anything necessary to reduce the staggering rate of murder and violent crime in this country, and I'm going to take this. I believe capital punishment is ineffective at reducing crime, so we're going to take that one. That's what Michael Dukakis will say. Unfortunately, this position alienates you with moderates in the current high crime environment, but that's what he is. Okay. Is it true that you are a card-carrying member of the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union? Okay. Options: I don't share every belief that this group has, but I'm not going to cancel my membership because of some spurious insinuations from the right. At one time, I was a member of the ACLU. I have been concerned as any good American by some of the cases the organization has taken on in the past few years, or I'm a proud member of the ACLU. Okay, well, let's see here. I'm trying to win an election here. So I'm going to take this one, take number one. Okay, yeah, that was a wrong move to take. I think my conservative view is coming in a lot more than my effectiveness to be a liberal. But I'll do this again with another one. If you guys like this one, I'll try and take the opposing view of my own views. I'm going to go to Missouri. Okay, now I've probably lost this, but in 1977, you vetoed a law requiring teachers to begin the school day with a recital of the Pledge of Allegiance. What were you thinking? Okay. Now, this is an attempt by the Republicans to deflect attention from the popularity of their own candidate, Mr. Bush, and his elitist background and policies. This was in line with the 1940 decision from the Supreme Court. It seems highly likely at the time that this law was going to be struck down by the Massachusetts Supreme Court. I have nothing to hide. I'm proud of the freedom and conscience that every American should. Now look, vetoing a law that requires teachers to begin the school of reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, that's not. If I vetoed that law, that's going to be very, very unpopular with the conservative base, no question about it. But the liberal base and the moderate base, this time, is a lot different from the liberal and moderate base. I'd be a hero if I did it in 2022. But I can always pass the buck. And that's what number 2 does, so that's what I'm going to do. Many voters struggle to make sense of your rationale. Yeah, I know. I wasn't going to win that battle. Okay. Could more have been done to prevent the current farm crisis, which has devastated the upper Midwest? Okay, we need to increase the support of American agriculture by fighting for exports in our trade deals with the Soviet Union, Mexico, and elsewhere. Or we could have stabilized the situation much earlier with aggressive intervention from the federal government. This is the type of thing I would have done if I was president. Or unfortunately, the economics of farming cannot support the number of farmers who are borrowing money in the 1980s. Well, the Michael Dukakis policy is number two. Okay, that's what I chose to do, and I'm really getting killed here. Okay, I'm really getting killed. Um, I'm even going to lose. I'm even starting to lose my own state. So I'm going to go to Texas one more time. Okay. What measures should have been taken to assist states such as Texas, which have been hurt by the recent crash in oil prices? We need more funding for federal. Well, that's what the Democrat would do. More funding for federal programs. I believe that American companies should every right to bid for oil contracts with our allies. Cheap oil is an overall benefit of the country, the economy. I think the majority of voters would understand that this fall we need a comprehensive energy strategy, re-implement price supports for domestic oil production. Okay. I'm going to take that one. Okay, it's a bold position. Could definitely help some Texas Democrats make up their mind. Okay. Television advertising is coming to dominate the political campaign season. Where should the greatest emphasis be placed in your ads? Let's attack George Bush and his political handlers who lacks any deep-seated conviction or record any governing competence? Or let's focus on my record as a Greek immigrant who have risen to the highest position in American life, going with my competence as liberal values? Or let's attack the Reagan deficit, Bush's performance as vice president, and mix in some spots to defend against Bush's dishonest allegations on various issues. I'm going to attack the Reagan deficit, okay? That's what I'm going to do. And, okay, it's a little bit better here. And I'm going to go to Ohio. Okay, do you believe that a voluntary prayer should be allowed in the nation's classroom? I'm not touching this issue with a 10-foot pole. If anybody asks, I will deflect it. I support the right for local schools to decide whether or not to include daily voluntary. This is settled law. It is not appropriate to have public schools lead students in prayer, even if it is voluntary. Sometimes you got to take a stand, so I'm going to take a stand. There's nothing wrong with this response. I didn't think there was anything wrong with this response. That's why I gave it. To what extent will you attack George Bush's background as a son of a U.S. senator and an elitist in general? Ann Richards gave a great speech during the convention during attacking Bush's supposed Texas roots. I think we really have an issue that we can run there. Now, Ann Richards, poor George, and all this crap. Now, Ann Richards was not a very good governor of Texas, in my opinion, but that's my opinion. She did a good job on that speech. If I was a Democrat, and to probably enjoyed it to no extent, enjoyed it to the live long day. I'm skeptical about how someone with George Bush's background or privilege could ever relate to middle class America. And I think we could have served to focus on policy and ideology, and then Ann Richards, boom. Okay. Now, let's see here. We are losing. We are en route to losing, but that doesn't mean I'm giving up. I'm going back to Ohio. And then where will I spend the last day of my campaign? And I'm going to go to Ohio, the Midwest, and see if I can do it. Good luck tomorrow. Okay, now here we go. And election night has arrived. Settle in bed. Settle and wait for the returns, however long it may take. Best of luck. Now I think I've lost this, but let's see how this all plans out. Okay, this is my first attempt running as a Democrat. I've lost Indiana. Well, let's see. Okay, let's see how this all pans out. Yep, this feels like election night in 1988 because that's pretty much what it looked like. At least I avoided riding in a tank this one. Yep. I've gotten West Virginia. Now, Bush won in a landslide as well, so I'm not... Okay, I've taken Rhode Island. I've taken Massachusetts. Yeah, Bush is going to win this quite handily. Okay, I lost the election. Okay, let's go to the final results. Let's see how it all panned out. See, the thing is, yeah, I know, I'm aware of this. Let me see the election map. Okay. I did take New York. I took Massachusetts. I took Rhode Island. I took West Virginia. I took Iowa. I took Wisconsin. I took Minnesota. I took Oregon. I took Washington. Yeah. Um, yeah. Ronald Reagan was a very popular president. To overturn this election, you need somebody a hell of a lot more smart, lot smarter than I am to do it. And I'll do this again if you guys like this. Okay, so I failed miserably. As Michael Dukakis, I was very very poor, but I tried. Okay, at least I did that. But tell me if you like this, if you want me to do more of these, because there's other elections I can do here. I can either take the popular candidate or I can take the individual who lost, and go from there. But please click like, share, and subscribe, and have a good rest of your day. And thanks for watching. I appreciate it.